Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to look at loose complete and loose graded vintage Star Wars figures. A lot of last 17 and high grade sold at auction that I thought we'd go through. As you can see by this thumbnail, there was a really cool custom that I had never thought to do, which is a Luke Stormtrooper along with the Dianoga Trash Monster. Why have I never thought to do that? That's such a good idea to put those two together. So lots of really good items that sold at auction, as always. Thanks to my Patreon supporters. They allow this channel to be what it is today. Really appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to start off with some ungraded gems, and I was shocked by this final sales price. I guess I shouldn't have been, but it was a near mint to near mint plus condition dark blue dome, dark blue early bird version of R2-D2, the Hong Kong early bird version. So you can see there it's got the Hong Kong COO and the dark blue paint apps, and that's a very desirable variant. This one was very, very clean from a trusted seller, and I don't know what kind of grade that's going to get, but I've got to believe it's at least an 80 plus, maybe an 85, somewhere in that ballpark. That sticker was fairly clean. I mean, you could argue right there's a little nick on the sticker. I don't know if it's showing through okay, but right next to the leg, there's a little nick where the sticker overlaps, so I think that could hurt it. But I mean, we're nitpicking here. I'm just trying to get an idea of where I think this thing would grade. I think it would grade around an 80 plus. That's my guess. And it sold in an auction for $411. $411, big number there, but it is the dark blue early bird version of R2-D2 Solid Dome. Same seller also had a small head molded legs. The painted legs is the one you want to look for. That's a really tough one to find. You can see there, the paint looks a little off maybe at the very top of his head. Arms also a little off, but that still sold for $56.99. It's got a weird stain or something going on that side. If I didn't know better, I would say that this was a Spanish figure because it has a weird modeling going on there, but I don't think it is. It's just, that's the way it looked to me at first. I think all the Spanish figures have the large head, not the small head. So this is just a standard Hong Kong. But if you see a painted legs, that's the one to go for. That's a really, really tough one to get for the small head Han. So $56.99. And then we had this one. That was a pretty big number as well. The Luke Indoor Battle Poncho. We got some more last 17 coming up in a second, including one of these in high grade that sold for not much more than what this one sold for loose complete ungraded. And it has the correct black Palace blaster there. So very nice example, probably near mint plus condition, $243.01 on that. This was an interesting one. This was a no COO Biker Scout. This one was the thin arms and legs. I consider this to be a Meccano figure. I don't know how AFA typically labels it. It does have the newer case style. I consider it to be the Meccano thin arms and legs. It did have a dowel that I just noticed that it had a dowel that was broken off there inside the case, so that's a negative, but you could always send it in to be recased. By the way, in my opinion, AFA's dowels are such garbage. They are garbage. They do not stay on. I had a buddy named Gary who bought a graded Darth Vader for me, AFA graded, and I bomb-proofed this thing. I mean, I bomb-proofed it, and it arrived to him in California with both dowels broken off. They don't put enough glue on them. My God, just add some glue to it. I don't know what the deal is. I mean, UKG's cases are so rock solid. They blow AFA's cases out of the water. They are so much better than AFA's thin and just kind of wimpy dowels. I mean, do something about it. UKG has these really thick dowels that are very solidly constructed. The outer cases are so much thicker in terms of the acrylic quality. It's a much better product than what AFA puts out, in my opinion. I like AFA, all right? I'm not trying to say I don't like AFA. I do. I love AFA. But they got to do better with those dowels. They just break off way too easy. They need to figure out some kind of other manufacturing solution rather than just gluing them in, because they do not stay in at all. $345 on that one, though. But that is the Meccano, I think, the Meccano thin arms and legs Biker Scout. That's a pretty desirable variant. You usually do not see that one graded by AFA. It's usually UKG, since obviously it's a French Meccano figure. But I did want to point that one out. Speaking of UKG, I mean, look at these dowels. I'm sorry to harp on this, but look at these. Look at the size of those dowels they use relative to AFA's wimpy little beta versions. I mean, those are just such wimpy little things. I mean, God, I can't stand them. And then you have these that are literally almost indestructible. I mean, they are very solidly constructed. This one is a Spanish PVP leather cape, and someone asked me what I thought it would sell for. I picked a number that was a lot higher than this. I was thinking like $225 US. It sold for $157. That is a bargain of a deal. 85, 90, 85 were the sub scores on that too. So that's a Spanish figure with the leather textured cape. It's not really leather, it's just a texture, and you can kind of see it there. It's a really cool variant for the Spanish PVP that uses a different type of texture for the cape. Next up was a UKG 85 Han Solo in carbonite. That one sold for $252 US. And then you compare it to this one here in the US. This seller had a bunch of very high grade last 17, along with some other non-last 17. But this one was worth talking about, a 90 plus grade for Han Solo in carbonite. CAS 90 plus, that one sold for $370. So a UKG 85 sold for $252, and then the CAS 90 plus sold for $370. Just an interesting comparison there. Here was an 85 plus Lumat. That one sold for $200. I mean, that is almost what they go for ungraded, just because of the bow and quiver. But that one was a pretty clean example. You could maybe make an argument it's got just a slight discoloration to the torso there. It just might be bad lighting though. This, I think you can see it a little better here. Look at the torso piece versus the legs. It's just a very faint discoloration, but that one was an 85 plus, no COO. Lumat, $200 in an auction, free shipping. Good deal there. General Lando graded CAS 90. That one sold for $301. That's about right. That's about where I would have expected it to sell. General Lando's come down a little bit, even in high grade, but that was a pretty nice looking example that sold for $301 in an auction. We had a CAS 90 grade Imperial Gunner, and this is I'm not going to just take a dump on AFA, all right, because CAS, you guys have got to put more space at the top of your cases. This is a complaint I hear from collectors all the time, and I agree with them. You guys do not put enough space at the top, so that it's almost like the head is almost rubbing against the top of the case. And it's not like that for every one of your cases, but you guys got to add a little bit more space there just so it's not like pressing up against it. So do better on that. I do like the accessory case though. I mean, these are like the newer accessory cases that they use. Those are really nice. Very, very nice. I like the way those look. They really present nicely. So anyway, that CAS 90 sold in an auction, 10 bids, $397, a very fair price for what that was. That was every bit of a 90 grade. It was a beautiful figure. And then here was another Luke Battle Poncho. Now, we just talked about the loose ungraded one that sold for $242. This one was a CAS 90 grade that sold for $276. That's a pretty wild price disparity, going from ungraded to graded, and you're only paying $30 more or whatever it is. So whoever bought this got a good deal. See, now this one, on this case, there's plenty of space above the head there. So I don't know what they're doing. On some of them, like this one, it's way too tight, and this one, there's plenty of space. I mean, it's not that hard. Just have some kind of consistency with your cases, in my opinion. Next up was the Imperial Dignitary. This one was graded CAS 90. This was a good deal at $220. Maybe not a good deal, but a fair deal for a CAS 90. No nose rub on that one. I don't think so anyway. It doesn't look like it. It's just shadows there. But that's a nice looking figure there. I mean, I don't know if it's fair, okay? But for a 90 grade, for $220, I don't know what. I haven't seen any loose graded Imperial Dignitaries in a while. I vaguely remember them going for about $220, like AFA 85s, 85 pluses. $220 feels about right for an Imperial Dignitary. I know a lot of people don't like him. I like him because, for obvious reasons, he kind of looks like me. You know, he's got that gaunt kind of sickly look to his face. Probably no hair either. I mean, let's be real here. This guy doesn't have any hair, just like me. So $220 on that one. Next up was a 90 plus grade Ramba. That one sold for $205. Again, that's a really fair deal for a 90 plus grade. That's a price I'd pay all day long. Really good deal on that one. And then here was that custom. This was a cool item, I thought. Very, very cool. This one had the Luke in Stormtrooper disguise with the coin, and then the Dianoga Trash Monster. and it was graded CAS 85. Now, when you have multiple items like this, CAS takes the lowest graded figure, and that's the score overall. I prefer how UKG does it, where they have two labels inside, one for each figure, right? So if it was a UKG custom, they would have one for the Luke, and then on the other side of the case, they would have one for the Dianoga Trash Monster. I think that's the better way to do it, personally, because you don't know which one's the 85. If I had to guess which one's the 85, I would say probably the Luke, because he looks like he maybe has a little bit of very slight discoloration going on the limbs versus the torso, which is common. I mean, that's a common thing. It still looks like an 85 quality figure, but it's much easier to get an 85 or an 85 plus or a 90 for the Dianoga Trash Monster versus Luke. So my guess is that it defaults to an 85 because of the Luke. But that's a really nice item. One of a kind, and it sold for $1,053. Big number on that one, but very cool item. One of a kind. One of a kind for sure. Very, very cool. Next up was a Monomon. This was an AFA 85. And that one sold for $432. Very good deal there, I thought. See, here they used larger dowels. I think they should use the size dowels that AFA uses for the Monomon should be standard for every character, in my opinion. And that will prevent them from breaking off. They use these little thinner ones that, you know, are just not meaty enough for some of these other figures. But I like the fact that they use the big ones for a Monomon because obviously he's a big figure. But $432, that seems pretty fair to me. That seems like a pretty fair price to me. They said 85 plus, but it's really 85 near mint plus. So that was an 85 grade. Next up was Yak Face, older case style, but it was archival case, AFA 85, $641. That's the cheapest price I've seen for an AFA 85 Yak Face in a while. Usually they go around $800 to $850 minimum, sometimes as high as $900. But Yak Face did sell for a cheap price. It might be because they had so many others going and ending at the same time. I don't know. It was an older case style as well, but it was an archival case, and it was an 85, and it looked every bit of an 85 to me. So $641, that's a steal of a deal, really. I mean, that's a much lower number than what I'm used to for AFA 85s for Yak Face. He also had a C-3PO CAS 90. That one sold for $306. Big number there. Big number. I'm surprised it went that high, to be honest. You know, I just don't think that most C-3POs don't sell that high, even in high grade. You know, even if you had like an AFA 90, maybe you get 306. I don't know, but that one feels to me like an overpay. I'm just shocked that it went that high, but it was a beautiful figure. I mean, look how crystal clean that vac metallization is. I mean, that is a very, very nice looking C-3PO. One of the nicer ones I've seen in a while. I just sold my AFA 85 for like, I don't know, $150, $200, somewhere in there. So 306 seems like a little bit of an overpay, but that's just my personal opinion. Very nice figure. They also had a CAS 85 vinyl Cape Jawa, and this one kind of ended right where we expected, right? I had mentioned that that I'm going to take a look at that in a second here. Let's see. So this was from the prop store auction, and it's got a statement of, or certificate of authenticity. This is to certify that the item was lot number 310 vinyl Cape Jawa CAS 85. So that's interesting that it came from the prop store auction. That's one auction house I don't really follow that closely, because most of the time they're selling like movie props and stuff like that, or, you know, movie posters and things like that. But anyway, that was pretty cool. And a CAS 85, I think I had this one in a what to buy video a couple weeks back, and I said it would probably end in that $2,500 to $2,700 price range, if memory serves. I might be misremembering what I said, but I vaguely remember it was like $2,500 to $2,700, $28. And that one finished at $2,655, which is about right. I mean, vinyl Cape Jawas have come back down just a little bit. So $2,655 on that. That one was a beautiful figure as well. And let's see what else we got. We had the only reason I point this one out. All right, so this was an AFA 80 plus Hong Kong Luke Jedi that sold for $250. I've got an uncirculated 85 new case style AFA 85 on Facebook on Rogue 5 Toys for sale for about the same price, and it still hasn't sold yet. So don't pay this much money for an 80 plus when you can buy mine for an uncirculated AFA 85 new case style. And I think I've got it priced around the same price point. If not, I'm going to be relisting it around $250. I might have listed it for $270, somewhere in that ballpark. So I'll probably drop it to $250. But given that an AFA 80 Plus sold for $250, I know I'm pretty close on my price point for the uncirculated 85 grade. Anyway, that one did sell at $250. And then we had one Polish bootleg I wanted to point out. I was tracking this one because I've got one of these, the exact same figure, exact same CAS 85. And now I know what to list mine for. So I've got a few items coming up on Rogue 5 Toys. And, just keep an eye out on Rogue 5. If you're new to Rogue 5, make sure to join and make sure to fill out the questions. Otherwise, Chris will not let you join. We're just trying to keep out the scammers and things like that. But this one did sell. This was a 3rd generation AT-AT Commander General Veers graded CAS 85. This, of course, is a Polish bootleg, and it sold for $211.11. So I'll probably price mine around $195, $190, somewhere in there. But that one was an interesting sale that I was keeping an eye on for my own personal collection as I kind of downsize some of my collection. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at recent loose complete and loose graded figures. Be sure to leave me a like if you did enjoy the video. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.